Hello, Legion. This is Hadrian. Thank you for being here. Let's play some more Civilization VI Rise and Fall in our Strategy School series. I'm going to spend this episode talking primarily about government and policies in Civilization VI, as well as city-state introductions, which I hope to meet one of those fairly soon. But of course, we're not unlocking our first government type, which is the chiefdom, until 3 turns from now, when Code of Laws is finished. We'll finally get to decide between one of these military policy slots, or one of these military policy cards, and one of these economic policy cards, and I'll go over the details of each. There's not a lot to go over. But before I do any of that, I am not going to dedicate an entire episode or even part of an episode to builders as a topic in Civilization 6 because it's a simple enough mechanic. But if you happen to be a Civ 5 player or, Civ 4 player, I mean, they work differently than in previous iterations, and it's worth mentioning. Every builder by default starts with 3 charges. We've just used 1. And notice that the number of builders literally on the map for the unit is the same as the number of charges. The only time this won't be the case is if you have more than 4 charges, which there are things like wonders and policies that can add to the number of charges available, and those things do stack. So it's possible to have builders with lots of charges, more than 3. But if you have 4 or more charges for a builder, you'll only ever see 4 builders on the map. But you can always see the charge count down here. Again, we've used 1 on the wheat tile, and once the charges are gone, yes, the builder's gone, and you have to train another one. So not quite like workers from previous iterations where you build them and they just improve all the livelong day for you. It is a little bit different in this case. We, of course, went for the wheat tile, even though when you select the builder, they do recommend several different types of improvements. This is a recommendation for the ziggurat, which is the unique unit, or the unique improvement, to Sumeria. +2 science, +1 culture if next to river, and it cannot be built on hills. So this would actually be a good spot for a ziggurat if we wanted to go ahead and get that culture bonus as well. Again, I'm not going to play too crazily to Gilgamesh's bonuses in this series, but it would be worth it to have a ziggurat or 2 at least, without going too nuts with them, just to take advantage of that and show you kind of how that can impact, how using something like that can impact a playthrough. But again, I want to keep this series as baseline in terms of the Civilization 6 experience as possible. So since we got that builder for free, though, there's another implication that I want to jump on before we start moving through turns again and start moving towards Code of Laws. And that is that since we no longer have to think necessarily about buying a builder with the gold we've been saving up, we can now think about purchasing tiles instead. And one very handy thing that we can do is we can go ahead and purchase either of these tiles. Really. This is a production tile. We already have a couple of plains hills near us that would provide similar production, but the idea here would be to move toward this luxury resource and being able to buy that fairly soon. I'm going to buy this tile because I can build a farm there. Once I have 50 gold, I can buy the luxury resource tile and improve it as well once I have access to irrigation, which remember I got the irrigation boost when I improved the wheat tile with that farm. So having that luxury will be an actual good segue, I think, within a few turns. I don't think we'll do it this episode, but within a couple of turns, we're going to need to talk about amenities in an episode. And we're going to talk about housing and happiness. We're going to go into more detail about those systems because we're starting to reach a point. We are already getting close to a point in Uruk because the city is growing well and it's going to continue to grow well, especially with this wheat tile improved, where housing and amenities are going to be an issue if we don't stay on top of them. So more focused discussion on that coming. But let's go ahead and check our units, make sure there's nothing else to be done here. You can always, by the way, this is a small caveat, you can click this button right here and it pulls up a list of all of your units. It's a great way to see if there's any units you happen to have forgotten about somehow, because they will be differently highlighted than the others. Remember, any unit that is grayed out, either on the map or on that list, no longer has any movement. But a unit that is still bright does have movement available to them. So it's a good thing to keep on top of. All right, so it seems like this. Okay, that sound is an important sound to note. There you are. So we're going to have to turn around with our warrior and send them straight back in that direction. That sound will play, and notice that we could see the encampment even though we did not have a unit in range of it. It was in the fog of war. But that sound means that a barbarian encampment has spawned within your fog of war somewhere. It will only play if the encampment spawns in an uncovered but fogged area of land. So somewhere in here. We haven't explored, below this line here, but we have explored over here. And so as a result, the game warned us that, hey, a new barbarian encampment has popped up within your explored territory. And it'll do so regardless of how far it is from your territory, as long as you've explored that area. you will hear that sound warning. And the thing that I want you to note is that, well, what did I want you to note? I was going to say something else just now, but it completely slipped my mind. Dang it, what was I going to say? Okay, I'll come back to it. But there was something about the barbarians in particular. Yeah, I'll come back to it. I literally had something else I wanted to follow that thought with, but can't remember what it was. Let's see. This warrior is trying to scout up in this area. I want to see if I can stay ahead of him with my scout to spot for additional goody huts, possibly. Let's move you here. And then how about to the horses? Okay, so we found another encampment there. I think I want to go here. Alright, so now we know there's a barbarian encampment there, and there's a Roman warrior still exploring in this area. And then, of course, this builder has an option as well. If I move you across, again, this would consume all of the unit's movement across the river. Even though it just shows as a 1 movement cost tile, watch this. Boom. Yeah, builder's out of movement. 0 of 2. But pretty soon, in 2 turns, we'll be able to buy that citrus tile. And in 2 turns, also our monument will be done, as will Code of Laws. What was I going to say about the barbarians? Maybe that was it. Maybe all I was going to say was that they will spawn within the uncovered area of the map, no matter how far away they are from you. Maybe that's all it was. Okay, so let's put you on top of the hill so you have a little bit more visibility in this area. Ooh. All right, so we have started to uncover some more luxury resources, by the way, which I haven't necessarily pointed out. But we've got spices here, and now we have whales over here. So that is an incentive to try and seal off this part of the continent from Rome. And I would very strongly consider coming down here, I think, and putting a city down here to kind of make sure Rome didn't expand toward me and lock down territory in that direction. So we've got 2 turns left until the monument's done. Let's go to the next one. There's the scout. I'm not going to worry about the scout because I already know where the encampment is. And the way that these units work in general is that the scout will come trying to kill the unit that killed its encampment. It will basically kamikaze. It will just throw itself at whatever unit killed its encampment until it dies. So it behooves you just to go ahead and get rid of those encampments when you know where they are. All right, let's go to the hill here. Hello! Okay, so we have met the city-state of Geneva. Now, this is a notification. This is one of the ones that I was talking about last episode, kind of wishing that it would alert me a little more because there have been multiple times in my Civilization 6 series, including the original recording, which was briefly live on the channel of that last episode. I recorded it very early in the morning, which was another factor in this, but I completely missed the city-state notification because I think there are certain notifications that just honestly should somehow call more attention to themselves, whether they pulsate or glow or something to kind of let you know, like, hey, you've met a city-state. It would be cool if maybe the blue background kind of pulsated, got brighter a little bit, you know, to kind of let you know, this is an important thing. And it says we've received a city-state quest. We have met that new city-state. Of course, we can click on that and go to the point on the map where we met them, same as with Rome. And we discovered a tribal village as well, so we'll be able to get another goody hut cleared next turn. So let's go ahead and talk about city-states and what the implications are for having just met Geneva. Now, one really cool thing that's happened is we are the first civilization to meet them. We're the first civilization that managed to get up here. So Rome does have a warrior in the area, but we got here first. And as a result of that, actually, you know what? Let me go ahead and build a farm here. Or do I want to do that? Maybe I'd rather have a ziggurat. Let me look at the yields of these tiles. You know what? No, I'm going to do a farm because I think that any citizen that works there, I'd prefer we get both the food and production bonus. Whereas, well, no, there is actually more food for that tile if I build a farm there. Ooh, decisions. No, I'm going to do a farm here because having later on in the game, this doesn't apply right now, but it'll apply later. Having farms that are connected in a cluster like this will actually be beneficial to me. There's a tech that boosts farms in that pattern. So let's do that. We don't have a farm over this wheat yet, but we will. You can use another build charge there. And let's see where our citizens are working. Still those same 2 tiles, but we're about to get another citizen shortly. All right, so back to city-states. We've got Geneva up here. We can now click on this button up here for city-states to take a look at what Geneva gives us. Now, city-states in Civilization 6 are separated by, they're categorized by type. Geneva, being blue, as you might imagine, is a science city-state. Now, we already have one envoy with Geneva. Envoys are how you gain benefits of the city-state, and they work in a couple of different ways. You can have more envoys than another civilization in a particular city-state, and you will both still get the bonuses that you would earn from that city-state, both civilizations would, from having that many envoys. However, the civilization with the most envoys will also get a suzerain bonus because they are the suzerain overlord of the city-state. So basically, if you don't know what suzerain means, it just means you become the territorial overlord. You become kind of the protector and the defender of this city-state. Now, as far as defense mechanics, there aren't too many in the game right now. As of April 2018, there aren't too many ways to say, hey, leave the city-state alone or declare protection over the city-state, but there are some cool things you can do with city-states nonetheless. So let me just go through what we're looking at here. First of all, we do have one envoy, and as you can see, by virtue of having one envoy, we are producing an additional 2 science in the capital, which is great. So now we're up to 5.2 science per turn, and we got that for free just because we met them. Had we not been the first to meet them, we would not have a free envoy with them, but we did get it because we're the first. So that's pretty cool. We also have received a quest from them already. They want us to recruit a great merchant, and if you succeed in a city-state's quest, you will get a free envoy with them at that point as well. One of the easiest ways to get a free envoy with a city-state is to establish a trade route with them when they give you a trade route quest. Cool stuff. And then, of course, if we have 3 envoys with Geneva, we will get +2 science in every library building, which is a campus building that has to be built. And then finally, if we have 6 envoys in Geneva, every university will have +2 science. Every university in our empire. So, really great way to boost science output. And again, city-states are color-coded, so you might run into a city-state that is production-focused, that is gold-focused, that is faith-focused, culture-focused. There are... And is there another one beyond that? In the game right now, I don't think so, but I know there are some mods that add additional city-state types. Yeah, right now there's a city-state type in the game for all of the 4 empire-wide yields and the 2 city-specific yields, food and production. Actually, no, there's not one for food. There is not one for food. I stand corrected, but there is one for production. So again, one thing that you get once you are either at level 3, because we're not suzerain yet. You might have noticed this. It shows that we are not the suzerain overlord because there is a minimum requirement of envoys, and that is 3. And this number right here, by the way, shows you how many envoys will be required in order for you to become suzerain, regardless of how many other civilizations might be influencing that city-state. So that number will be dynamic based on what else is going on there. You can click on Geneva and get a little bit more information this way. Now we've selected Geneva and you can see its envoys in a bit more detail. This is Geneva's suzerain bonus. Your cities earn 15% science whenever you are not at war with any civilization. So once we have 3 envoys, and we earn envoys, by the way, either through those quests or through influence. We're currently earning 1 influence point per turn. And once we have 67 influence points, we will earn an additional envoy. And there are ways to earn more through policies, which you will see as the series continues. Now, again, these are the bonuses you get if you are the suzerain overlord of the city-state, in addition to the fact that you get this unique bonus for Geneva. City-states will follow you into war and peace with other players, so they become allied to you, and their units will become hostile to your enemies. City-state lands become friendly territory. Your units can move there, heal there, and upgrade there. Builder units may improve city-state tiles. So if a city-state ever gets attacked, you can send your builders in to help rebuild it. You can see 3 tiles around the city-state. So once you're suzerain, you can actually see the same kind of sight radius that the city itself enjoys. And you can pay gold to temporarily levy or take control of the city-state's military. So temporarily, wow, I cannot get that word out today. Temporarily, it's a large amount of gold. As you might have seen, Gilgamesh actually gets to do it for a lot cheaper because of his innate bonuses right here. Pay half the usual cost to levy city-states. So there's that. But all of the units that belong to the city-state will temporarily, holy crap, become your city-state units. Your personal military units. I'm just going to take a deep breath and keep talking in a second. No, you can also gain ownership of all of these city-states' resources as well. So there are none currently available, but this is where you would see which ones Geneva had access to. So if they had strategic resources, if they had luxury resources, they would become yours as though you controlled them in your territory, which is pretty neat. I'm going to go ahead and clear all of these notifications except for the Goody Hut one, just so I remember that that's there. And then finally, let's go ahead and move you here just to, I wanted to see if there was anything in that direction, but we're going to scout that way too. Let's see, you don't have anything to do right now. Let's go to the next turn and we will hit that magic.
At his best,
there we go.
Man is the noblest of all animals. Separated from law and justice, he is the worst.
Okay, so now that we have completed Code of Laws, we have this button on the bottom of the tech here. That's not a tech, actually, it's a civic. We have this button on the bottom of the civic card, and we can change our policies. We have 2 cards to choose from. We can get a combat strength bonus when fighting barbarians, or we can double the experience our recon units, our scout units, get when they're exploring. Since I'm dealing with some barbarians right now, we have 2 encampments we're fighting, I'm going to go ahead and give myself the discipline military policy. And then down here we have the God King and production, or we have God King and urban planning policies. Now, I almost always go for God King first unless something else has given me some faith per turn, which right now I don't have anything giving me faith per turn. Why would you want faith per turn as early as possible in a game of Civilization 6? Let me show you. We're going to go ahead and put God King in place, and we'll start getting +1 faith and gold per turn. And then once we don't need it anymore, we'll switch to urban planning. But let's confirm this. Now, if I click on the religion tab up here, we are working toward a pantheon, and we need 16 faith in order to found a pantheon. So hopefully we'll find some more goody huts, maybe some that'll give us some faith bonuses, but that is how you earn a pantheon, and some of the bonuses that I've mentioned you can customize the tiles around your cities with, and other things as well. It's pantheons and religions are great ways to tailor the Civilization 6 experience. In addition to the policies that you get to use, that you get to pick every single turn, they're great ways for you to tailor the experience to your personal playstyle or your challenges in the current game. So I'm going to go ahead and attack these fortified spearmen. Notice that there are some advantages and disadvantages to this. We do have a +5 advantage versus barbarians because of the policy that we chose. And then we have a +10 combat versus anti-cavalry units bonus, because the warriors fight well against spearmen, basically. So it's kind of a rock, paper, scissors game in this particular case. Now, the spearman is stronger than the warrior by default, but again, the warrior gets that combat boost against the spearman because it is an anti-cavalry unit. And they're on unfavorable terrain, so even though they're fortified, we're actually going to do pretty well in this battle. Let me go ahead and fight. And you'll see a couple of things here. The amount of damage done, and the amount of damage done to them, and also the amount of experience they gained, which is also visible down here. One more fight and we will hit level 2, and we'll be able to give that warrior a promotion, which will give us some pretty cool things as well. So, with that being said, let me go through maybe a few more turns here. I do have to select a follow-up research task in the civics tree. Now, I can go for foreign trade, or I can go for craftsmanship. I have not yet improved 3 tiles, so I haven't gotten this boost. And we have not yet discovered a second continent, which reminds me, if we look at the continent lens, we're going to be talking about the interface in a coming episode. Before I get too deep into the tutorial, I'm just going to stop and say, okay, let's really quickly, before we go any farther into the really detailed stuff and the more advanced topics, let's do a UI wrap-up. So we will definitely do that. But it looks like the city of Ur, or rather the continent of Ur, is pretty much this entire continent that we know of so far. We haven't discovered any other continents. Very appropriate that it's called Ur, given that we are Sumer. But right now, that's the only continent we know of, so we haven't gotten that boost. So, otherwise, yeah, we would have foreign trade done a lot sooner. But, you know, the potential of trading with Rome is fairly enticing. So I think I want to go for this first. There are some policies that we gain as well. If we go for craftsmanship now, we can implement an economic policy in 7 turns that will allow us to build builders faster. Builders would build 30% faster. And then we would have the agoge policy available to us. So we would build ancient and classical era melee, anti-cavalry, and ranged units faster. Foreign trade, however, gives us access to the trader unit, the ability to create trade routes, the ability to establish a joint war against a target civilization, as well as maritime industries. This is a huge policy for anyone wanting to build an effective navy early on. This is another reason to go for foreign trade first if we do have a coastal city relatively soon. Don't necessarily know that we will, but we might. And notice it's 100% production, so double production towards ancient and classical era naval units. Boats build twice as fast. Really handy if you want to build up a naval power early on. And then finally, caravansaries, plus 2 gold from all trade routes. Let's go for foreign trade as our next civic. It's going to take 7 turns. But again, we're going to have some opportunities fairly soon. We're going to build a ziggurat, probably... We might build one there. I like the idea of having a farm on that tile. I know I was talking about putting a ziggurat there and I put a farm there instead, but I really do like the idea of having a farm on that fertile land. Okay, now we have the choice. I think I'm going to go ahead and build a settler in Uruk. Or do we do a slinger? Settler will be done in 7 turns. So it's a bit of a risk, isn't it? Or we could build a war card if we went for, you know, military units, but I do want to have a slinger so that we can defend against any attacks. It's a bit of a risk. It would take 7 turns to build a settler. It wouldn't actually take 7. We're about to gain another citizen, and especially if we put Uruk on population focus, pretty much any tile this citizen starts to work, and it should probably work that one, I would imagine. Actually, no, the 3rd citizen, it'll basically... Yeah. It would be these 3 tiles that get worked. So that would actually not only help the city grow faster, but also, yeah, we'd get the extra production. So it'll definitely be done in sooner than 7 turns. I'm going to go ahead and do this, because it's important to have another city as soon as possible, especially because I would like to try and steal this spot from Rome. So that is the decision I have made. And I'm going to go ahead and stop this one here. In the next episode, we're going to talk, as I might have mentioned earlier, I feel like I did, about housing, about happiness, and amenities in a more focused way. We're going to talk about that system because the population of Uruk is going to grow a little bit more. We're going to have a new city going down pretty soon. So we're going to start to see cities looking for housing a little more. We're going to start to see cities hurting for housing a little more. And by the way, one important component of the farms we've been building with our builder units so far is, I'll actually show you. If I go to Uruk and I go to housing, we have now received 1 housing from improvements because every farm is half of a housing point. So we have actually been slowly building up our housing while doing other stuff. So I don't think housing is going to be an issue once we hit 3 pop, but amenities are going to start to slow down. The need for amenities are going to start to slow down the growth of Uruk at that point because we're going to lose our bonuses very soon. So we'll have to pay attention to that. Hence the discussion of happiness, housing, and amenities coming up soon. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this one, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to follow along. New episodes are coming out every day at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Comments are always welcome. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time.